Factions, the lifeblood of worldbuilding, wargames, open-world RPGs, and real-life political struggles. For a while now, I've been facing some issues with the two main nations of my project, and that is because I started designing them based on vibes rather than deliberate decisions, and especially in how they contrast each other. And yes, there are other human cultures in the world. We will get to them when it's relevant. But it's much more important for me to explore and define the main two first. So anyway, Savan Commonwealth and Heekaxian Empire. Let's get to it. So, as I mentioned, for a long time I felt that I needed to go back and be more conscious about my choices, to give each faction a distinct visual identity. Not just a different palette and pseudo-historical inspirations for their gear, and call it a day, as I was doing it at first. I wanted there to be cultural and practical reasons for the difference in their choices of armor, colors, and attire. For them to be almost opposites in many ways, without veering into making them cartoonishly different. Of course, part of that comes naturally from their historical inspirations. The Aztecs for the Heekaxian Empire, mainly, and a few different Slavic groups for the Savan Commonwealth, at least initially. But still, that was not enough. So let's start with the Heekaxian soldier, although he is more like an officer of some kind. First of all, I kind of wanted to go against the trope that the evil faction must wear black or red or muted colors, both in textiles and armor. I wanted these bastards to look shiny, extravagant, and colorful. And no, I'm not making Heekaxians to be ontologically evil, or completely irredeemable bad guys to be killed without a care. But just like many times in our own history, and even the present, sadly, they are a group of people who act in a disproportionately violent and oppressive ways towards other groups of people, which is mainly the result of their own cultural and historical context. And like anything, there are exceptions. But I won't get into that here. Broadly speaking, Heekaxians, especially the elite troops coming from Heekaxian, their original domain, but also the nobility and wealthy elite in their colonies, follow certain aesthetic rules. First, a preference for mirror-polished armor. Not only is this a show of status, for it takes a long time to polish the metal and to keep it shiny and rust-free, but also because it reflects the light of Ix-San, the carrier of the sun, and god among gods of the Heekaxian pantheon. In that vein, they also value edged gold decorations, mimicking the shape of the sun and its rays, running over the pieces of plate, another show of wealth. As for the clothes, they favor deep and bright blues, like the color of a clear sky, with red and green accents, the former for the blood of men, and the latter for the color of Ix-San's own blood. Which brings me to the green crystal jewels they often wear. These are alatir crystals, the same ones they use to power their soul engine machinery. They believe the shining mineral to be the clotted blood of their god, shed during his daily battle with the star gods, as he circles the heavens, fighting to protect humanity, his creation. So, as you can see, these guys like to show off. The feathers and gold and turquoise decorations are used for the same purpose, and to connect them more with their historical inspiration, the main one being the Aztec Empire. The feathers they wear come from various birds, including the ones used for riding, and some are from the sacred great-tailed eagle. Their face armor, reminiscent of the skinless visage of Ix-San, is half beaver, half samurai mask, and fashioned grimly to strike terror into their enemies' hearts. You can also see that overall, they favor a more top-heavy design, emphasizing their martial might and yearning for the sun and the sky above, and concern for the divine mission entrusted to them by their god over earthly matters. And lastly, you can notice that they also value sharp angles and shapes, and symmetry, which reflects their strict and square culture, and rigid social structure. So, that's the Heekaxians done. Moving on. I just want to say that although I keep portraying a similar look for Sensheva so far in my videos and artwork, let's just say all those soldiers have come from the regular army of New Semuria, the most powerful province of the Commonwealth. And in the future, there will be more variety due to the diversity contained within Sensheva. The same goes for Heekaxian, to some degree. Some contrast to the Heekaxian officers seem immediately apparent, even from these early stages. In general, Senshevan clothes are baggier and bulkier. This gives the people a more bottom-heavy silhouette that reflects their more organic technology and cultural focus, and the fact that they are more grounded as people, more concerned with the matters of earthly life, the good and the bad. While Heekaxians look to their god above for answers, or to the rulers and priests atop vast pyramids, the Senshevans search for meaning in the very ground they tread, the things that grow, the bones of their ancestors, and each other. As for the armor, practicality and scarcity shapes their choice as much as status and symbolism does for Heekaxe. Sensheva might be a rich land, but not in iron mining, making steel expensive. So armor is much less commonplace. And to save on labor time from the already high cost, as well as protect it from rust, it is often left unpolished from the forge, blackened with burnt oil, or painted. Its shapes also tend to be curved and round, especially compared to the straight shapes and lines of Heekaxian armor. As for the colors, we can see more muted and earthly tones present than those used by their rivals. This is in part because these muted tones are cheaper to access, but also because they get washed out with time. Chief among the preferred colors of the Commonwealth is orange, the dye for which comes from the Semurian lily, their national flower. As for decoration, it is common for soldiers to wear plants such as dried flowers, wheat, and green blades of grass as charms of good luck, often held in bands around their helmets or other parts of their armor. As for the large cloth bandolier he wears, where his powder chargers are stored, it is actually a coat, folded and held in place by the belt, but which can be worn as a large jacket, should the weather call for it. One thing I want to do with Senshevan clothing is to make a lot of it modular and multi-purpose. So this can be a poncho to keep in the warm during cold weather, or a simple bandolier for holding the charges and maybe other objects as a sort of giant front pocket. Meanwhile, the Heekaxian wears similar charges around his waist and front tabard, in a more symmetrical pattern. The weapons also show how the focus and capabilities of each nation differs, particularly their guns. The Senshevan's weapon is similar to a jezail from Central and Western Asia, with a long barrel which improves the accuracy of the gun. And since powder and lead are harder to come by in the Commonwealth, they try to make every shot count. In contrast, the Heekaxian's weapon is a 3-barreled revolving flintlock. And yes, this actually existed, which I realize became obscured by the helmet and feather ornamentation. So I made a quick mock-up in Blender and Concept to show you how it works instead. Every barrel is loaded and primed with powder separately, and after firing, rotated out of the way by the secondary trigger, readying the next shot. This gives them a terrifying initial rate of fire, but must be shorter and thus less accurate to compensate for the weight. Guns such as these are not common, however, as the machining involved is too costly for production in large quantities. So these kinds of guns are mostly carried by officers and elite noble soldiers. The common Heekaxian infantry has more typical guns, more similar to the usual smoothbore musket. And lastly, we can see how the cultures diverge in their choice of melee weapons. The Senshevans prefer the light and fast curved swords introduced to them by the steppe cultures west of the Commonwealth, but the shape of the blade and guard can vary wildly. Meanwhile, the Heekaxians prize their native makanas, a brutal and flat bar mace, which can be wielded in 1 or 2-handed grips. They are clearly evolved from the obsidian-lined maquawitl that their ancestors fought with before they reached the Bronze and Iron Age. Phew, that's it for now. Sorry that this relatively simple video took me so long to make, especially after what I said in that return video. I seriously expected to have more time on my hands, but then ran into some issues, which basically led to me suddenly having a lot of extra work to deal with. But such is life. I will continue making an effort to work on the project and make updates weekly, even if they are small. And on that vein, my heartfelt thanks to all the supporters on Patreon and other platforms as always. You guys are a huge motivation for me to continue working on this project. Seriously, you don't know how much I appreciate it. But to show you some of my gratitude, behold, the legendary Scroll of the Grove. I applied my recently learned 3D skills to make it, and I look forward to using those skills to make some cool stuff in the future. Wink wink. And thank you everyone who watched this video till the end. This also helps a lot. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already and you like what you see. May your roots grow deep. Cheers!